It's really one of the more unique seasons I've had here, in that usually we've done really well and checked all the boxes as far as NCAA tournament, conference championship, or in the case of last year being 500, or even 2013 where we just didn't have it. You kind of it's more black and white. This one was a little funny in that I thought we were an NCAA tournament level team capable of winning 2 games in the tournament. B, we thought maybe RPI-wise we had enough in the tank and really weren't sure if it was our last game after Georgetown. And then C, to play well and have 2 top 25 games at the end of the year in Butler and Georgetown, and then to lose the way we did on a national television stage in dramatic fashion. I think this one's really funny in that I really would want to coach this team for a couple more weeks. I felt like this team had a couple more games left, and I think the guys genuinely were sad that they couldn't be together anymore. So we're a little unfulfilled, but at the same time, I think it was a good season, not a great season, and I think to win 11 games is not easy. To get to the conference final in the Big East is not easy, and I think for our young guys, even though the seniors left maybe a little, unfulfilled, I think our young guys played in 2 really emotional, high energy, competitive games in the playoffs and really got something out of that. So we average 11 wins a year since I've been here. So I won't say it was an average season, but we hit the 11 win mark. And I think we prove we're a national program and once again in the top, 3 or 4 programs in the Big East. I think, to go over the season, conference, non-conference, I really look at it like a race, almost like a marathon, and I think there's splits within the race. And we really stubbed our toe 2 or 3 times during the Big East race, which inhibited our ability not to win the race, but certainly put us behind a few steps that we had to recover from. In the case of the St. John's game, I thought, we had gone 7 games unbeaten. We had beaten Georgetown in overtime, who was number 9 at the time. And then we had tied Kentucky on the road 3 days after that, who was in the top 25 at the time. And then to go out to New York and play St. John's, we had a red card in the first half. We had no goal in the 9th minute. And I thought it was one of those nights. But that one set us back a little bit. But then I really think the Villanova game is really the one that, we'd like to do over. We didn't have our A game. We lacked energy. We left something out there, only because I would say Butler and Creighton, were very good on the night and beat us. So that's a little disappointing. But I think overall, again, to be in the top 4 in the Big East, that's the 4th time in 5 years we've done that. To get a home field in the playoffs, we were able to do that. And I think overall the Big East slate, going in the last game of the year, we could have come in as high as 2nd. And with 2 games left, we still had a chance to come in 1st. As far as non-conference, I think the Loyola Chicago game certainly, didn't set the tone for the year, but we weren't ready to win that game. And we were fortunate enough, I believe, to get 6 or 7 straight overtime results after that, after losing in overtime prior to the Georgetown game. And then you go right down the line. I think Drake was a convincing win. Harvard was a convincing win. Boston College, obviously, to be down 2-0, come from behind overtime 3-2. At the time, I thought that would be a bigger win mathematically than it was, but it was still a road ACC win. And then you go down to Kentucky, Cleveland State, and Detroit. Pretty solid, only losing 1 game in our 8-game non-conference slate. And I think there's also something to be said for losing our home opener and then going, 8 games in a row with wins after that at home. We haven't really dug into it too much and really audited it, but, statistically, this is, again, the 2nd year in a row we've allowed 26 goals, which is the most since I've been here. There's something to be said for that. I think we scored close to 40 goals, which is the 2nd most. So we were one of the best offensive teams in the country all year from a goal standpoint, from an assist standpoint, which always makes me happy. And I believe we generated the most corner kicks in the country, or at least the 2nd most. So we played in the other team's end a lot. We shared the ball. We were prolific. We scored in 19 out of 20 games. If you go back to the preseason and last spring and even the end of last year, we've scored 32 out of our last 33 games. So having a high-octane offense is something that coaches like and fans like, and we certainly were happy with. But I felt like, our offense maybe sacrificed a little bit of our defending. We allowed 2 goals 9 times, which is high. And between having a freshman at center back and a freshman in goal and then losing our goalkeeper and going with our backup towards the end of the year, I thought there were a couple goals here and there that were preventable. And I think those guys will gain valuable experience from them in the offseason with video, and we will be better next year. Defensively, might lack a little more going forward. I still think we'll be solid going forward, but certainly to have the most goals allowed since I've been here, and then we had the most yellow cards since I've been here, 24 yellow cards, and I don't think any of them were bad discipline ones, but certainly every week when I look at the Big East standings, the first thing I look at are goals allowed and yellow cards. And all year we were third or fourth in the league in those. We were never first. And I think as the season got going, that's something that worried me a little bit. But having said that, we were right there on the doorstep of winning a championship. I think in itself, the playoff map we had was both daunting, but it was also favorable. I think to have a team like Providence, who was top 10 in the country preseason, number one unanimous team in the Big East preseason poll, who we beat 4-1 the first time, get in the playoffs as the bottom seed, as the fifth seed, and then have to come here again and play us. And with the competitive spirit and the pedigree they have, I thought that was actually a very challenging first game for our guys. And to win that game 3-0 and win it, a commanding 3-0 win, and really, a convincing performance, I thought that was great. And then we were lucky to go back to Butler. We lost to Butler on Wednesday night, last regular season game. I recall going into the locker room and about to speak to the guys, and I heard the senior saying, "We're going to beat Providence. That's who we want. We're coming back here in a week. We're beating Butler, and we're winning the championship." And then all of a sudden, the tide shifted where I was no longer the head coach or the leader. I became a chaperone, and I realized the guys had the keys to the program, and the players became followable. And I think they really followed suit and believed that, and they took care of business with Providence. We went back to Butler. Disappointing to lose a 2-0 lead with 12 minutes left. But to win in penalty kicks, to have Matt Viscenza make one after missing one in regulation, that was great. And then I really think we all went to Georgetown expecting to win. I had a speech, usually have a speech ready in the postseason for if we were to win. And if we were to lose, I think that's something I've always learned. And I didn't have a lost speech for the Georgetown game. I felt that strongly about it. And even to this day, I don't really know what quite to say to the guys. So great college soccer game. Thought it reflected well for the conference. Thought it was great theater, very emotional, very competitive. Thought the production was great. It really showed well on TV. And we showed that we're a top program. And, in the eyes of many, an NCAA program, I think we fell a little bit short on the math. And I think that has to do with maybe one or two of those stub toes we had. But more so just on unlucky scheduling. Last year, 5 of the teams on our schedule finished in the top 25 RPI in the end, and we felt great about it, to the point where Brian Hicks and I looked at it and said, is this schedule too much? Is it daunting? And we were a little worried about it. And again, I think our opponents, were a bit unlucky, and we kind of were a victim of that a little bit more so than anything we did, and that's going to happen, and there's really not a lot we can do about that. I guess in closing, the only other box I wanted to check, or area I wanted to hit upon, is to thank our staff. I thought our aside from our director of operations returning for a second year, we had a very new staff. Jamie Starr came back to do the goalkeepers from FC Cincinnati, and then David Costa and Kevin Ryman were brand new. It was their first fall, and I think overall it was a very harmonious staff. There was great synergy. I think they really dove in with the guys and were well received, and really did a good job with our competitive preparation and managing the things that I can't manage, and running the soccer part of things on a day-to-day basis at training and certainly in the preparation. That really brought joy to me, working with them every day, and right on down. I always say between the parents, the players, and sports information, sports medicine, academics, strength and conditioning, media, marketing, so on and so forth, facilities, there's over 100 people involved on our team. And when there's a game or a team goes on the field, there's a lot that goes into it that people don't realize. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank our seniors. Ian Vickers is going to move on and utilize his fifth year elsewhere. Corey Brown is going to move on and play professional soccer somewhere, as I'm sure Matt Viscenza is going to. And I think Josh Grant is going to give that a shot, and he's certainly capable of doing so. But I all think, those guys had a great, body of work, and it goes not from their freshman year with the Sweet 16, but their sophomore year, top 10 national ranking, beat the number 1 ranked, number 2 ranked teams in the country their sophomore year. We're in the top 25 all 4 years, and certainly to play in 2 conference conference finals and have no losing seasons, and be a national program and be amongst the most consistent programs in the Big East in the last 5 years. Basically it's us, Creighton, Providence, and Georgetown. If you go over all the categories, and I think Butler's in and out of that, they've done a great job, and I want to thank them. And then, I guess the final thing is I'd be remiss not to leave a message for our guys coming back, but we were probably unlucky with a couple refereeing calls in the end. We were unlucky with a couple bounces. We probably had a couple things not go our way mathematically, and I think they have to use that as a lesson, use the lessons we learned when things didn't go our way as far as what they could have done from a thumb-pointing perspective, but more so to realize that we were very close, and I think another inch and another play and another rep and another, whatever it is really going to be necessary, and I think one more or something along the lines of that will be our mantra for next year. And I think we have a great core back right up the middle and have a couple red-shirted guys that are going to jump in and help, and certainly need to add to our recruiting class a little bit, but I don't think we need to go find any saviors. I think there's enough on the defensive side, certainly 2 experienced goalkeepers. We returned 3 out of the back 4. We have a redshirt freshman in the back who's very good, who's going to jump right in. And then the back of our midfield is strong with 3 guys. We have Simon Hessness back, who I think is an All-American candidate. And if you look at guys like Jacob Goodall and Peyton Miller, who really had their first action full-time this year, and add in Sam Sergi, Bryce Curran, and again, several of the other peripheral guys and guys who waited their turn and redshirted. I think there's some depth there. There's enough there, and I imagine a year from now I'll be sitting up here with a different message and a different tone, and hopefully getting ready to go play a second-round game somewhere.